Okay, are we ready? Everybody ready to go? All righty, if I could have call the meeting to order for July 12th and get Councilmember Mercado to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Roll call, Linda.
Okay, Councilmember Andrusik.
Here.
Councilmember Mercado.
Here.
Vice Mayor King.
Here.
And Mayor Sierra.
Here. Thank you very much. Do we have any reordering of the agenda tonight?
No, ma'am.
All righty. Then we move on to public comments. This is when anybody who wants to speak about any subject at all, whether it's on the agenda or not, has their 3 minutes for compliments, complaints, ideas, suggestions. Our first speaker is Mr. Steve Licken.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Steve Licken, Buellton. I want to pass out a few things here. First of all, I want to compliment the staff on contacting Caltrans about cleaning the Highway 246 corridor. Not only have they cleaned it, they've cleaned it twice. And I really appreciate that. I think they forgot to clean up the freeway mediums or the ingress and egress off the freeway. They haven't touched those. And on the bridge, there's weeds growing out of the bridge I think needs to be cleaned up. So maybe another phone call from staff to jack them up on that. Second of all, I came before the council 2 months ago on May the 18th, or 12th, excuse me, to discuss the very poor condition on the Avenue of Flags. Especially since Ronald Reagan's son is coming here September 22nd to rededicate the Avenue of Flags 50 years after his father dedicated it when he was governor of California.
How many years?
15 years.
The following day after I made my presentation, I came to City Hall and talked to Mark, and he assured me that they would get on it. I also met with Rose. I took her for a little joyride around Buellton to see my concerns, and she said they were going to work on a plan and get things working. The next day, which was Friday, or excuse me, later on that day, Friday, the gardener mowed all the weeds that I had taken pictures of. So there was some action. I understand the watering has increased, but no new seeding on the bare spots or fertilizer has been taking place. Again, a couple weeks ago I talked to Mark about that, and he said they were having some real problems with the gardening contractor. And I told Mark, so fire him. If he doesn't want the job, get rid of him. I mean, they got a lot of money, and I can remember all the years that gardener begged all the business guys to help him get the contract. Not necessarily to get a decent price, but at least get a shot at it. And as far as I'm concerned, he's not doing the job. This morning I went down to the chamber office to verify the date of the memorial thing. At 73 days from today is all the time we have to get the avenue in shape. Walking out of the chamber door, the first thing I noticed was the metal artwork on the north end of the Avenue flag. All I can say is that the grass growing inside the artwork is greener than the lawn. A little bit off the subject, I thought, well, maybe it looks like it'd be a good deal for Christmas. All we'd have to do is put lights on it, make our own Christmas trees. Getting back to the Avenue of Flags. I further walked down the Avenue of Flags to the military flag display. I can't say how bad it is. It's absolutely disgusting. The flags are all dirty, they're all tethered, they're worn. A couple of the flags have tethers hanging down about a foot, foot and a half. I've got pictures of that and all those things in there, along with all the weeds that are still growing in the area. I just know what the hell it's going to take to get staff and council to get this thing ready for the big shindig. First of all, we need new flags all the way up and down. I don't know who takes care of the military flags. Is that the city? Doesn't look like anybody does. Okay. You know, if we can't make that date and get this thing cleaned up, maybe we should cancel the affair. But this is national exposure for Buellton. We spend all this money for advertising the Avenue of Flags, and it's the most disgusting strip anywhere around. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve. Okay. Debbie O'Quist, step on up.
Good evening. Hi, thank you for letting me speak. I'd like to discuss a little bit about the property on Central and 2nd Street. Who was responsible for the due diligence and the title commitment review? Was it our attorney? Was it you guys?
The title review?
Yes, when you purchased the property. Nobody looked at the property lines. It's just a blank piece of property. That's a very simple piece of property to purchase. It should have been looked at. You paid over $275,000. The property encroachment is 9 feet. That's 12% of the property, and you're going to give away $40,000 worth of property. Are you guys? I hope something comes of it, because that's parking lots as well, and it's embarrassing. So you're going to spend over $500,000 to get that property to be a parking lot, and we might make $18,000 a year, maybe. In how many years? I would suggest that we put money into the infrastructure of Avenue of the Flags, like what Steve was saying, and maybe sell that property, because it takes so much to get it going, and it's just, you could make more with all the effort you put into redeveloping Avenue of the Flags, and you bought a piece of property. Doesn't make sense in my mind, but I'm not part of this. I'm a new city homeowner, and I feel like Steve, there's just so much been going on, and you guys have a lot to do, but let's maybe focus on something that's central, so we could get that going and having that look nice. And I would just like to say the Visitors Bureau is doing a really good job. The hotels are full, and with the advertising they're doing for the Avenue of the Flags presentation, and the wineries are full, and the restaurants are all busy. So there's a lot of good things going on, but I drive by that property all the time, and like I said, my family's always bought fixer-uppers and properties, but you have to do your due diligence, and that's a simple thing that shouldn't have been overlooked.
Thank you.
We pay, what is our attorney, over $10,000 a month?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kathy Vreeland.
Okay. Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. I'm going to try to be a bright spot here and promote our upcoming event for the Visitors Bureau. Some of you know, and I've mentioned before, we're actually in the process of rebranding, coming up with a new logo and new website design for the Visitors Bureau. So we're super excited about it, and we're going to be doing a launch event on July 26th at 11:30. It's a Thursday, and we're going to do it actually at Parks Plaza Theater. So we're hoping to put it up on the big screen and have some popcorn and have some fun and really make it a fun morning. Should take maybe an hour. We'll go through the process that we've been going through to come up with our logo and branding and website. So I have some invitations here. You can let us know, RSVP to us if you can make it, just so we can kind of get an idea of a head count of who to come. Ed has his with him. Good. But no, we're super excited. So we're excited. Hopefully, we'll work up on the big screen, and we can kind of give you an idea. We've assembled the marketing, tourism marketing council committee, if you will, that's gone through this whole process with us to bring what we have coming up. So we're excited about the launch, and hope you can join us. And I have some invitations here. I'll hand to Mark and pass around. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, our last speaker for public comment is Richard Kuzmich, and if anybody else wants to speak, now's your time to get your slip in. Richard, nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Madam Mayor and Council, my name is Richard Kuzmich. I live in Buellton. My comment was on the noise on Industrial Way. Our mobile home park, Ranch Club Estates, backs up to Industrial Way on the west side. Some of the businesses have been running motors, compressors, I don't know what, but all night long. Now, I've talked to your code enforcement guy, and he's working on this, but I don't know if the Planning Commission should look at, there's a lot of businesses on Industrial Way, and maybe anything further, maybe there should be some kind of sound wall or something put up, because like I said, there is a lot of businesses. When you drive down that street during the afternoon, there's not much parking on the street. Now, in planning, I thought they're supposed to make provisions for parking for the businesses. Like I said, it looks like most people are parking on the street. I mean, you got one business loading and unloading trucks out in the street with a forklift driving around, and it doesn't seem like, okay, it's Industrial Way, but those businesses should have that contained within their business. But like I said, my original complaint was about the noise, and I've talked to your code enforcement officer, and on my slip there, the code for the noise is listed there. And he had told me that. I went and looked it up, and yeah, like you said, 10 o'clock is supposed to stop. And it's gone way later than that, a lot of nights. Now, I've talked to him, and he said he sent letters to these businesses. But like I said, it's just a matter of, I don't know if one of the things we need to look at in the future in planning, maybe there should be some kind of sound wall between a residence and an Industrial Way, if that may be an issue.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And I can just chip in quickly. Those are existing businesses that have been there for a long time, so we don't have the ability to put in new walls when somebody moves into spaces. New projects, we always look at sound walls and noise mitigation, but the existing ones, basically that's the situation, and we have to enforce our existing noise codes, and that's what our code enforcement officer is doing.
Thank you. We can enforce the 10 o'clock, the 10 o'clock cutoff time, though, correct?
That is correct, and we've had issues out there before with those businesses, so it's not a first time that's occurred, so it's recurring. So he's code enforcement officer is working on it.
Ben's pretty good at that. All righty. Thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, can I ask Mark a question about that? What about the new hub project? Is that going to have a sound barrier wall and a new hub project?
It's not mechanical, is it?
I don't believe the hub has some walls, but they're separated from the residences. So there is some.
No, I mean between the property line where the project is and Industrial Way. There's no wall there. There's no
the hub
contingency for a wall there.
Not on Industrial. I mean, this is separated from Industrial Way, but there's no wall between them and the park area.
No, I mean the other way. You said there are sound walls between the west side of that property line between Terravant and the new project.
Oh, yeah. The network, I think, is far enough away from residences, so there's no walls there. But these are more the ones that are next to the mobile home park that are existing.
Gotcha.
All righty.
And I think there was another one for Don Dunn wanted to speak under public comment.
I have Don under agenda item number 7. Is
I
that?
connected it to the cannabis thing. You want me to disconnect it?
I would, because that's not, what you want to talk about is different than the cannabis ordinance.
No problem. I'm
Ms.
jumping
Dunn,
up.
step
I'm
right up.
jumping right up.
Step right up.
This is for the audience. Good evening, Mayor Sierra and council members. My name's Dawn Dunn, and I manage the tobacco prevention program at the Santa Barbara County Public Health Department. And this is tangentially, in my mind, connected to the cannabis use because I'm going to talk to you about smoke and drifting smoke. So you guys already have a smoking ordinance on the books, and it is the jewel in North County, so thank you for that. You have a really good outdoor public policy. There's one little caveat in that right now your outdoor dining ordinance, or a section in the ordinance that deals with outdoor dining areas, allows for 25% of the seating section to provide for smoking. Most other local cities with strong local ordinances are now 100% smoke-free. So given that that smoke from other things might be drifting, we brought this to your attention. So in April, our program conducted a survey. I've had handouts sent around, and there's some for members in the audience. We, and I apologize for anyone watching, we can get these to you. So we talked to 66% of the 38 food serving establishments, and we got that list from Environmental Health. So 66% of the food serving businesses were surveyed. Those included restaurants, bars, wineries, hotels, and markets. 80% of your local businesses already have 100% smoke-free dining. So this is what's going on in the community already. 5 businesses allow smoking, and 3 of those have a chair that they set out sort of like outside their business. It's not a big area. Many of the respondents already felt that 100% smoke-free policy was in place, and those who commented favored a policy that would prevent smoke drift from all sources. So most local businesses already have this smoke-free provision. A 75%, 25% policy is sort of the old method. Those laws started in 1994, and they're a little hard to implement. And if you would consider expanding your secondhand smoke protections to include 100% smoke-free dining, we would love that. And it is the trend in, so the county has it. Solvang is going to be bringing their outdoor smoking, well, they don't have outdoor smoking protections, but they're going to be considering it in the fall. So that's my spiel.
Do we know the 20% or the 25 that do allow it in Buellton?
Okay, it's not 25. So okay, I spoke with 25 of your 38 food serving establishments. Okay. This was all done on the telephone. I didn't knock door to door, but a 66% survey of a sample that small is a pretty good representation. 5 of the businesses I spoke to do allow smoking, and as I said, 3 of those 5, it's a chair.
Okay.
Okay, the law right now would allow them to have a quarter of their outdoor seating. Okay?
Thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you.
And when you get to council items, if the council wants to consider that, that will be appropriate time to let staff know.
All righty. Thank you. Seeing no other public comment slips, we'll move on to the consent calendar. We have a few tonight. We have the minutes of the June 28, 2018 regular city council meeting. List of claims to be approved and ratified for payment to date for fiscal year 2017-18. Designation of voting delegate and alternate for 2018 League of California Cities Annual Conference Business Meeting. The monthly treasurer's report for May 31st, 2018. Quarterly report for January 1, 2018 through March 31, 2018 from Visit Santa Ynez Valley, the Visit SYV. City of Buellton's response to Santa Barbara County Grand Jury Report, pensions in Santa Barbara County. Do we need to pull number 3 for discussion, or?
I was going to suggest that anyways.
No, I don't
We're
think
okay?
We're okay, because it is what it is. If nobody's going, nobody's going, but we
Got
still
it.
have to identify.
Got it. Okay.
Never mind, answer my question.
Yep. Gentlemen?
Madam Mayor, I'd move for approval of items 1 through 6.
Second.
All righty. Linda?
Councilmember Andrews?
I'll second.
What's that?
I think
We need a second?
I think
Dave just
Dave already did.
Thank you.
Who's on it?
I beat you.
We're good.
Okay,
Still an aye.
Councilmember Andriesik.
Aye.
Vice Mayor King.
Aye.
Councilmember Mercado.
Aye.
And Mayor Sierra.
Aye. All righty. Any presentations tonight?
No, ma'am.
Okay, moving on to public hearings. We have ordinance number 18-02, An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Buellton, California, repealing Municipal Code Chapter 9.08 and adding Municipal Code Chapter 19.20 regarding commercial cannabis activities and cannabis cultivation. This is an introduction and first reading. Mr. Beardzinski.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, the City Council directed staff to work up an ordinance prohibiting commercial cannabis activities within the city, which includes storefronts and delivery operations. However, deliveries from outside the area to businesses would not be part of this particular ordinance. So it would just be storefronts and any type of cultivation or any activities associated with either recreational or medical marijuana. We're deleting the one section on medical marijuana just to be clear, and we're putting it all in a commercial section in the zoning ordinance, and that would apply to recreational and commercial. So we put the history down in here, and the Planning Commission on unanimous vote recommended approval of the ordinance that City Attorney McEwen has prepared. So staff is recommending the City Council consider the introduction and first reading of Ordinance 1802. I don't know if City Attorney wants to add anything to the presentation.
Just a couple things. Under the ordinance, businesses, retail businesses that are located outside the city can deliver to residents inside. So if you're a resident and you feel you have a medical need for cannabis, you can place a call to a retail facility in another jurisdiction. They can make a delivery. But what we don't allow are businesses that are located and based inside Buellton. So this would apply to any commercial business, whether it be for medical purposes or non-medical purposes, what they refer to as recreational. Any such business that's located inside the city. And those are businesses that require a state permit. So now under state law, if you want to operate any type of commercial facility, you have to get a license from whatever licensing agency is applicable. So if you're a retail facility, you'd have to get a license from the Department of Consumer Affairs. So this will ban all the commercial businesses. This will not affect personal use of cannabis or other activities that are allowed under state law. And there are certain activities, you can possess a certain amount of cannabis, whether it be in a concentrated form or non-concentrated form, and there's nothing that the city can do to prohibit that. So we're really just focusing on the commercial businesses.
What we can do.
Yeah.
I did have one quick question. I did have a resident who was concerned about the delivery service. There's really nothing we can do about that either, is there?
Well, the city could decide to prohibit delivery services. There's an argument that you are allowed to do that. You have authority to do that. It would be a difficult issue to enforce.
Yeah.
So some cities have completely prohibited all deliveries by commercial businesses. A lot of cities are allowing them. They all will be subject to state regulation. So any business that is delivering inside Buellton will have to have a state license and will have to adhere to all of the state regulations that apply to those types of businesses. If you, in the past, the big concern has been the clandestine operations that deliver cannabis, and those have been in operation for a number of years. Ever since the state adopted laws regarding medical marijuana, there have been businesses that have catered to customers through delivery services. They've been difficult to track and enforce, but that's something that is within the city's discretion.
And I'd just like to add, the reason we're not addressing it, whether we regulate it or allow it, we don't have the staff to go after and find out everybody is delivering. That would be a full-time job of whether we're enforcing them not delivering or regulating their particular deliveries.
I would ask. I understand the complications.
So any business that is operating or delivering cannabis that's not complying with state law could be subject to penalties under state law. So the Sheriff's Department, if they came across an operation like that, could cite them. There are limitations on what penalties apply in those situations. So I've seen some district attorneys are reluctant to prosecute some of these cases, but it would just depend on the circumstances.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions from council?
I had a question, Madam Mayor. Recently in the news, the county has been wrestling with the expense of keeping their ordinance in effect, or defending challenges. There's a sizable amount of money. We're talking about, I'm thinking $30,000 to defend an action as a base level. Is there any way we could get drawn into that if someone violated 1802? Do they have some rights that we have to give them due process that can run substantially over what we expect it is?
So is your question whether or not somebody tries to open a commercial business in the city?
Just the conveyance of it, for example. Somebody's selling and a neighbor says, I don't like it, I want to file a, why aren't you stopping that? I think our feeling is that we have our law enforcement to enforce our ordinance, right?
Well, yeah, it would depend on the situation. Now, if someone is an individual is dealing marijuana?
I don't have a structure. I'm listening to what the county is wrestling with. They don't know where they're going to get the money to defend or to represent, to protect their position on.
So there are cities that have prohibitions in place, and you still have businesses open in violation of those provisions. And in order to shut those down, yes, those folks would have due process rights. We'd have to look at the situation as it comes up. They can be, and like any nuisance abatement case, it's a nuisance abatement case. So any nuisance abatement case, there's a cost involved.
Right.
Now the property owner, under our code, is responsible for attorney's fees in any nuisance abatement case.
Okay, so we have an avenue to recover.
It's our same avenue that we have for other code enforcement cases that we go through.
And
it wouldn't be any different.
I've seen that problem. It varies from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. There are some cities that have been hit hard by illegal operations. Businesses that will open up, and for whatever reason they're going to ignore the local prohibition, and that does create problems for the city in terms of we have to go out and enforce, and there's a cost for staff and there's a cost for the city attorney's office. And in those cases we do try to collect attorney's fees if we have to go down that path. Other cities that have prohibitions have never seen a single business operate. Okay. And I think the advantage that Buellton has is it's relatively small, so it would be difficult for a business like that, I think, to find a space to operate. And hopefully, as the state system kicks in, the state enforcement will get stronger. Now, so far it's been pretty weak. The state is not really doing much in terms of enforcement, and we've reached out to the state and other jurisdictions saying we've got X number of businesses that have opened and they're operating illegally. Would you be willing to coordinate with us on enforcement? We haven't heard anything from them. But that's an issue that we just have to address as we go forward, and it could be that if there's some situation we can go in and red tag a building if it's unsafe, which gets rid of the problem quickly, but we'd have to establish the facts that would support a red tag.
And we've, when we did our medicinal marijuana ordinance, we did have a business open up, and we did go through code enforcement and got it closed down without any issues.
And on your question about defending challenges, yes, I have had dispensaries, similar type of facilities, bring lawsuits against that city, trying to find a way to challenge it. We've defeated all of those challenges. So we've not had a court rule against us on any of those challenges. And people are trying to find ways to poke holes in Prop 64, or saying that a local ordinance didn't follow Prop 64, or that Prop 64 still preempts local ordinances, which is not a valid argument. So yes, anybody could raise those challenges, and sometimes we have if you have a particular attorney on the other side, he might file 3 or 4 of those lawsuits, and that that's something you just have to deal with. But so far, none of those arguments have succeeded in any of the cities we work with, and I'm not aware of them succeeding anywhere else either.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just have one. Excuse me. I have not read the Health and Safety Code recently because I have not had insomnia, but under the Health and Safety Code sections, do they define medical marijuana as commercial? So you can't be a horse of a different color and call it a medical facility and then dispense that way. So it is considered commercial.
So if you want to operate a medicinal cannabis facility, medicinal cannabis only, you still have to get a license under the Business and Professions Code sections that we've referenced here, 26,000 and following.
Right.
So those provisions cover both medicinal and adult use, is what now they refer to. You know, we used to refer to that as recreational. It's now referred to in state law as adult use. And if you recall, it used to be that there were two different regulatory schemes, one for medicinal and one for adult use. Right. And then last summer they adopted an amendment, Senate Bill 94, which combined them into one, which is under 26,000 in the Business and Professions Code.
So this ordinance that we're passing definitely prohibits.
This applies to all cannabis, and medicinal cannabis facilities are a subset of that. So.
Gotcha.
We have a broad cannabis definition. So cannabis is cannabis, and this prohibits all of it.
Right. Okay.
Okay. No other questions? I'm going to open this up to the public. I do have one one slip. If anybody else wants to fill out a slip, Mary Conway, please step up.
Good evening, Mayor Sierra and our council members. As you can imagine, I'm not crazy about the law that has been passed on the adult use of marijuana, but I have come to accept it, and now we're kind of in this realm of the business of harm reduction. So right off the bat, I just want to thank you, because what you're trying to do here this evening and the way you've approached this issue here in the city of Buellton is truly harm reduction in a preventative way. And it is going to take our whole community and valley to really take a look at what harms are inevitable. And I'm speaking not just to our youth, but to our adults and our communities, and then work together to manage those harms. So thank you so much that you've stuck to your guns here and have been proactive in making this ordinance happen. There are so many myths about marijuana still, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of truths coming out that we've been trying, but until folks actually experience it, they don't believe it. But back to the secondhand smoke. According to state law, those that are going to be using it within the city, they are supposed to do it within the confines of their own property. But there's also a stipulation in the state law that says also marijuana cannot be used where there are any sort of smoking, where smoking isn't permitted. So it's kind of gone that next step and said, well, you're supposed to do it in your backyard, but if there's no smoking in the parks or there's no smoking outside your businesses, then marijuana can't be smoked as well. So I think in looking ahead to the regulation in regards to our patios being allowed 25%, that I think we have to understand that that smoke could also be marijuana that we're allowing on the patios. So there was a study done, and it comes out of the University of California at San Francisco. It's their medical school there. They conducted a study trying to find out the real harm of secondhand smoke in relation to marijuana. And so they, used their little rodents and discovered that when they're examining those rodents that were exposed to regular cigarette smoke, it took them 25 minutes to have their lungs and circulatory system come back down to a normal state. So 25 minutes for cigarette smoke, which is a secondhand smoke. And So again, they tested cannabis with those rodents, and it took 90 minutes for their heart rate and circulatory system to settle back down to normal. So they have determined that the effects of secondhand marijuana smoke last 3 times longer than cigarette smoke. So we, again, have to do harm reduction. You know, marijuana is here and it's not illegal within the city, and fortunately you folks are not encouraging or not allowing, hopefully, the commercial use, but we still have public use. And so, again, I encourage that smoking to cover 100% of our outdoor patios, even though most of Buellton is really honoring that already. So thank you again for what you're doing here, and I hope that we can all work together to mitigate some of the other issues, especially facing our youth in regards to this recreational use. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mary. Alrighty, I don't have any other speaker slips, so I'm closing the hearing and bringing it back to council for discussion and direction.
Start. I think we're heading in the right direction with this, and I'm not a smoker, so the only thing I do smoke occasionally is a good cigar, but I do that in the privacy of my home. And I just think I don't see the big hurrah coming out of marijuana like everybody's talking about, whether it's financial, and I think what we're doing here is setting a good example. So I think it should be ratified.
Maybe some other things to look at down the line.
Right.
Can I just add one thing about
Certainly.
smoking in public places? So
Please.
smoking or ingesting cannabis is illegal in any public place. So even in a restaurant that allows smoking or has a smoking section, that's a public place, so that would not be, we would not be able to smoke marijuana in that
Thank you.
place. So public place is not defined in any of the laws. I don't know if we've addressed this before, but so there are a lot of laws that address activities in public places, and those have been interpreted in court, and what the courts have said is that a public place is any place that's reasonably accessible to the public. So that covers a lot of places. Now, this is not going to address all of the issues that arise from cannabis. People are going to be smoking it in their homes, in their backyards, and there will be complaints that are going to come up. That we've seen them in other cities. But as far as public places, parks, I think there's a misconception now that since Prop 64 has been passed, a lot of people think now it's kind of a free-for-all. They can go smoke it at the park. They can, go to stadiums and smoke it whatever place that is open to the public. They think, well, now I can do it just like a cigarette. No, any public place is off limits to cannabis, and that's going to be a difficult issue for law enforcement. They're going to have to. I mean, I know it's going to be a difficult enforcement issue, and it's going to take a little while for the public to understand those limitations.
Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you. So do I have a motion? Or does anybody else have comments they want to make?
I don't.
Nothing?
Do we have to have a
So
second reading?
are you making?
I will make the motion to
We have to have a second reading.
Yes.
All right.
approve. Go back here.
1802.
Ordinance
19.2 as stated. No changes.
Ordinance 1802,
There's 1802.
1802.
Yeah, 1802.
and it's chapter 19. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Alrighty. Linda?
Okay, Councilmember Mercado.
Aye.
Vice Mayor King.
Aye.
Councilmember Andrusik.
Aye.
And Mayor Sierra.
Aye. Thank you very much, gentlemen, and thank you for coming and speaking up. Moving on, council member comments and items. Councilmember Mercado, anything from you? Any comments, any items, anything you want brought back?
No, I'm good for right now. Well, actually, I would like to make one comment.
Yes.
I hope, Mark, what Steve brought up, I know we have been working on it, but I think it's something that needs to get looked at. Just recently, I just started walking, and doing some things and walking through town, just a lot of trash. I mean, if we just had the businesses take care of their own trash, it would be a whole lot. And whether it's code enforcement or something like this where the contractor needs to get pushed, I think we need to address that.
Yes, Rose and I will be working on, with Valley Gardener to try to make sure those are taken care of. We've been attempting and had some progress, but not full progress. So we get it and we understand.
Okay.
All righty.
Madam Mayor, I would like to, under council comments of 3 items, but I have one item of request, but a comment to the tremendous appearance improvement in the south side of 246, right across from P. Soup Anderson's Hotel. That property was the biggest eyesore and hazard that we've ever allowed to exist, as long as it has. And the owner, is it a new owner or is it in process?
It is a new owner.
Okay.
He's owned it for about a year and a half, I believe.
He deserves a great compliment from us that he has cleaned that area up. And he checked our plumbing and broke a line and just properly taken care of it, I understand. So that's good.
He will be taking care of it when he develops the property.
He knows where it is now.
Yeah.
It's capped off, though.
It's capped. But the that thing was failing. The old palm reader, a couple of different failed things that have really been cleaned up. In fact, I noticed now probably someone threw a rock through the window because they could see it now, and it's been boarded up. But kudos to that owner for cleaning up, because this north side of 246 is, they're all working hard to give a good image to our city, and the south side wasn't quite that. It didn't look like they gave a darn. So that I really appreciated that and wanted to make it express my confidence in his ability. For a future council agenda item, there's something that I have been wanting to have a discussion with between us on regarding city ordinances, municipal code 2.08, .060, .070, and .080 with regard to powers and duties, relations with council, and departmental cooperation for our municipal code. And I would like us to have we've been trying to have a civil conversation and debate about it. I would like us to have, as soon as we possibly can, an adult understanding of what we would like to see and what we currently have, and if anyone else shares my desire to modify some of the ordinances that we have. So.
And could we do that on the first meeting in August? Because
I
Mr.
think we're
McEwen will be.
yes.
Mr. McEwen won't be here at the next meeting. There'll be one of his other attorneys.
Trying to do this in June, so yeah, that just is the wheels of government at work. And August will be better than September. So I appreciate it.
First meeting in August, then?
I'm happy if we can get it in the first meeting.
And this will be a discussion of the city manager responsibilities that are laid out in the municipal code and whether or not any changes to those responsibilities are appropriate.
Yes, sir.
Exactly. With our Brown Act, we're not allowed to carry on conversations.
That's right.
So we want...
We'll do it in the context of a meeting. We'll come back and I'll bring back a staff report for you to mull over.
All right. I appreciate that, but I wanted to, it's not, no action has been taken. I just want to have civil discussion.
Conversation.
No face masks.
Anything else?
I think that's...
Okay.
Let's see.
Vice Mayor?
No.
Keith? Any comments or items for you?
No, not this time.
Okay. Of course, I always have a few. First of all, after listening to Mr. Licken, I don't really know who's responsible for the military flags, but I think the city. I've noticed that when the Palmia flag and there's another flag and they're falling apart, the city can handle that, can't they?
Yes.
Thank you very much. let's see, I wanted to thank Solvang Rotary for a wonderful 4th of July parade and for allowing the Mayor of Buellton and her 5 grandchildren to ride in it. That was really, really nice of them. The League of California Cities had workshops 2 weeks ago. I was fortunate enough to be able to go to that, learn some really great things that I want to share with council. So I appreciate that opportunity. I wanted to thank our police chief, Eddie, for all the hard work our sheriff's department has done in the city of Buellton. I mean, my goodness, you've been busy.
Good. We have some good young deputies.
Truly, truly appreciate all the hard work. The motorcycle officer with his arrest on, was it 246? And I truly appreciate the service you provide for our community. Thank you. And then the last one, of course, is that Monday, the city is accepting the applications for 4 council and a mayor's position. So that goes from July 16th. You're probably going to bring that one up too, Mark?
The city clerk will be bringing that up under department reports, but
I will just be quiet then. But please let people know that we are looking to fill council and to consider, I mean, if you're a local resident, it's a good opportunity to be able to have a little bit stronger voice than sitting in the audience. Anyway, that's it for me, so then we...
May I add
Please.
one other kudo to Lieutenant O'Grady for his promotion? I
Oh,
thought
yes.
you were going to be
Oh,
covering
no, I
that.
forgot about that one.
We had the pleasure of having him represent us from the
Chief
Sheriff's
O'Grady.
Department, and he has been elevated. We may never see him again, but we appreciate him.
Well, we may see him. We wouldn't have seen him in personnel, but we may see him now.
and if I may bring up, is the council interested in the outdoor smoking to look at modifying our ordinance?
Yes.
As Ms. Dunn has brought up. So is that a council consensus
Yes.
to bring that back?
Sure.
For discussion, absolutely.
Okay.
Vice Mayor King, any comments or items for
I'm
you?
going to backtrack. I have heard, Mark, that there's an issue with the state as far as our water use on our greenbelt areas. Is that something the state is doing, or is that just urban legend?
I think that's urban legend.
It was.
Okay.
We did have to cut back on watering at one point when we were having our drought.
That's correct. We
that's
stopped
no
watering
longer-
the medians and things, but we never were in trouble or had any issues.
No, I mean, currently, we are not under state restrictions, right?
The state has lifted their drought mandates.
Okay.
That's correct.
I
I mean, they still want the state,
I just didn't have a chance.
Different
look into
agencies
that,
to
but I've
conserve.
had people saying stuff that we have restrictions on water, so it's good to know that we do not. So, thank you.
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, moving on then to written communications.
No, ma'am.
Alrighty, committee reports. None?
No committee.
Did not have any,
And I was under the impression that this is where we'd bring up the League of Cities event that we went to. 'Cause
This would be a good time for you to bring that up.
Yeah, Holly, Ed, and I went to Monterey for a League of Cities meeting. And there was some really interesting information on some of the classes that they had, especially the one that I really enjoyed. I don't know which one you guys went to, but the media, the media one. And some of the cities were there. They are big proponents of using things like Facebook, Instagram, and that type of thing. I mean, it may be that we get backlash in certain ways, but they said that the way that they use it is not necessarily, like a Facebook page, but if like something happens, there's 400 fire trucks going by here, and instead of the people calling the city, hey, what's all the fire trucks and police trucks and ambulances? They have a avenue by which they can say, just like an alert, structure fire on Central or whatever. I mean, it's maybe something that we could look into, because they said it had really relieved a lot of headache of them having, the phone ringing off the hook and their staff people having to answer the phone to answer questions like that. Not necessarily using it for like tabloid type information, but they had an ability to give an immediate response to the public. Say if you got 3 or 4 calls, then they would go, okay, we have a big fire on, Avenue of Flags, whatever the case is. And I don't know, is that what you got out of it? They had ability really to communicate with the community instantaneously, and that was kind of their big deal.
And we've looked at that in the past, and the problem with that is it's all well and good to provide the information, but community members are able to respond back, and we can't control the speech. So there could be nasty things put up there, things so we don't do social media for that particular reason, and that's at advice actually of our attorney's office as well, that if you put it up there, you can't block people, you can't do this, so it could, become a different forum for the city. So we might be able to look at different alerts like OEM has, that they put out just text alerts or things like that, but social media, as we've been advised, we should not be involved with that.
I know we have a lot of residents on our mailing list who are interested in events and things that are going on. I'm wondering if we might be able to use that with their permission to notify them of, say, a fire or some type of water emergency or something.
And again, we'd have to look into that, because that is also time intensive who's going to be doing it. If there's one person doing it, they're not around, that information's not going to get out. So a lot of cities that probably were presenting have a full IT department that works specifically on that.
That is true.
And they have full-time people.
Yeah, so we don't have full-time people for a lot of things, and if we have one person and they're gone, the alerts aren't going out, and it's basically not going to be functional. So,
but we recently, I think within the last 6 months, the Amber Alert is very effective, and the highway is, there are quite a few signs between here and, say, San Luis Obispo that spell out who to look for, what the license number is, what type of car. And then I know it was irritating, but it was helpful. If your cell phone just starts, maybe I don't know if anyone knows what that was called, but your cell phone just went crazy, and you listen to it, and it's an emergency I think it was for fire, when they had extreme unexpected winds, and they said in the canyons, and they're going to have this and that, and it was, I think it's saved some.
Correct, and PG&E also, I just went to a seminar yesterday with PG&E on their wildfire prevention and notification and shutdowns. So people can sign up for PG&E when there's going to be a scheduled shutdown and when there's an emergency shutdown. So there's all of those different things out there that we don't have control over. And so if they're signed up with PG&E or with County OEM or Aware and Prepare, and we try to provide that information, that gets most of the emergency information out there. But we can always look at other sources to provide that information.
Right,
yeah.
right.
So we'll look into that.
Food for thought.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I had a meeting with North County, Santa Barbara County Association of Governments yesterday in Solvang, and we are putting together an RFP for the traffic study that's going to start at Riverview Drive and 246, go all the way down 246 to 154 to Armor Creek Ranch Road, and 154 to 101. I tried to stress our biggest concern of the speeding on 246, how we go in a quarter mile, within 1/4 of a mile we go from 65 to 55 to 45 to 35, and that it's really unusual to see anybody doing 35, and that kids can't cross the street. And so I have our county supervisor's assurances that she's going to make that a top priority too. So fingers crossed, the $300,000 grant with the Chumash tribe and through Caltrans, hopefully we'll get, after 10 years, maybe we'll see something. Anyway, did you have another committee?
Well, I just from that same meeting that we went to in Monterey, we one of the meetings that we went to was with CalPERS, and it was a Marcy Price.
I think that was her
Marcy
name.
Price is the CEO of CalPERS, and they were explaining, a lot of the things that CalPERS does, etc. And it was good news to hear that we got an email from you guys that their investments are on the rise, and they were talking about maybe having to reduce the discount rate that we got. So hopefully with the investments that CalPERS has, they're not going to try to pass that on to the cities to where we have to kick in more for our retirement accounts. So that was good news.
That is good news. That is good news. Alrighty. If we're done with committee reports, I'm moving on to business items. We have agenda item number 8, the Visitors Bureau proposed fiscal year 2018-19 budget and request for additional funding. Mr. Beardzinski.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, the attachment 1 is the proposed budget for next fiscal year for the Visitors Bureau per the city's contract with the Buellton Chamber of Commerce. And just for your information, the current contract is in effect until June 30th, 2020. So there's no issue on that. They're also requesting an increase in the city funding in the amount of $175,000. And if this was approved, they would receive $575,000 a year as opposed to the $400,000 that's part of the current contract. Any additional funding granted by the City Council will be brought back for final approval via a budget adjustment resolution and amendment to their contract. So recommends that the City Council receive the budget and consider and provide direction on the request for additional funding. And Kathy Vreeland does have a presentation for the item as well, but I'm available for any questions.
Terrific. Before we get to Kathy or Ms. Vreeland, are there any questions?
Just to verify, the current contract is through June 30th, 2020?
That is correct.
Okay, want to make sure.
Okay. Kathy, come on up.
Good evening. I'm going to come hand you something here. And you can follow along. Oh, I think there's two things. Want me to hand out? Did you get it? Yeah. You each get one, though. You got one, too.
Oh, is there 5 here?
Yeah.
You can just give me yours, Mark, for the records.
Oops, do you have? And I can provide you more copies. I think I brought enough for council and one for staff, but okay. Do you have, are you good?
I think so.
Okay. Yeah, should have two separate things. So, again, Kathy representing the Visitors Bureau for Buellton, and I want to, again, thank you for allowing us the opportunity to market Buellton and promote our city. We've got a lot of good stuff going on and a lot of stuff that's already happened, and we're looking forward to a bright future for Buellton and being able to bring some more visitors into our city. So I put together, I know I spoke with some of you, and I've tried to provide and bring some stuff this evening to some supporting documents for you to look at. I know I provided you the budget for the upcoming or current now fiscal year that we're in July. And if you'd like, I also have, so this sheet kind of breaks down each of those tasks per our contract that we're responsible for doing. So that will kind of give you a breakdown of each area. There's 4 tasks that it's broken up into, and this kind of breaks it down and outlines kind of what's included in each one of those tasks. So they're basically the budgeted amount where that's being spent. So that's this little 2-sheeter that I have, and we'll kind of refer back to that as we go on. The other one is the PowerPoint presentation, and so you can follow along there, or we've got it up on the board, but I'll kind of walk through some of the information to kind of support our request and kind of show you what we've been doing. We've been very busy over at the Visitors Bureau. So the first slide is really a breakdown of the TOT. Whoops. There you go. So this is going to show you a breakdown of the TOT compared to the Visitors Bureau allocation. So this is just a lot of numbers we're looking at, but this starts back in the year of 2007. It goes through the current, just this past fiscal year, actually through May of 2018. So this does not account for the month of June yet, as the hotels need to kind of gather their numbers before they then report it to the city. So this will take you through May of 2018. So this kind of shows you what the TOT, the city's been collecting through the years. At some points, it was a 10% TOT tax, and then now it's currently 12% that the hotels are collecting as a bed tax. So that's reflected through the years. And then the Visitors Bureau allocation to the farthest right column, that kind of shows you where we are and what we've collected through the years to assist with our marketing efforts and operation of the Visitors Bureau. And also on that point, some years I know we received 10% of the TOT collected. We went to a 20.83%, and then most recently the 400,000 flat contracted amount. So we've gone through a couple transitions there as well with our receiving. And you'll see it fluctuates. Sometimes it goes up and down. I know 2015, 16, really on 17, we had some hotels under renovation, so we were short on inventory. So sometimes the TOT goes up, sometimes it comes down depending on what's happening in the market. And again, through the recession, it took a little dip, and then also when hotels were going through renovations, we saw a little dip in our TOT. The next slide is just really a visual to kind of show you in comparison in another fashion, if you will. The blue line there is representing the money we're collecting as the Visitors Bureau to do the marketing for the city, compared to the red line, which is the TOT that the city collects from the hotels. So we're on an upward motion. Again, our allocation shows a little dip there in that 15 to 17 year simply because we were less rooms on market and hotels were under renovation, so we didn't have the product and the inventory. But you can see we're on an uprise, so we're kind of excited about that. Of course, we have the New Hampton Inn, and we have some other hotels coming in as well. So that's just another way to look at it. The next slide is just basically tourism equals money. We're your number 2 revenue generator for the city of Buellton. Transient occupancy taxes, we're just behind sales tax for the city. And the more tourism dollars basically means less tax dollars our citizens of Buellton have to pay to keep our streets clean, parks maintained, and our city functioning. So the more money we can generate and provide the city, the less our community and residents need to pay out of pocket to keep our city functioning. So it's our job to put heads in beds and keep the revenue coming. The next slide will show you, basically this is just one portion of our budget, but I wanted to break it down because it's really the majority of our budget. It's 66%, it accounts for 66% of our budget is in the advertising and marketing. That's what we're contracted to do. So just kind of breaking out all of those items and really what allocation we've budgeted for each of those items. So I don't know if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. I can go line by line, but it's pretty self-explanatory. Going through, again, that marketing piece is 66% of our budget. So I'm proud of that. I think a lot of times people get heavy with their payroll and salaries, but I'm proud to say that majority of our funding does go into the marketing purposes of the city. So, and again, those are all the advertisings, whether it's print or digital, photography, social media, public relations, promotional items, events, trade shows. So that's what we spend a majority of our funds on. Yeah.
Kathy, member dues and subscriptions, what is that for the Visitors Bureau?
That would be, we're a member of, say, it's the Central Coast Tourism Council, we're a member of those, DMA West, any type of a travel agency or whatnot that we might become a member of.
Thank you.
So the next slide gets into a little bit of let me just 1 second before I go on. I want to make sure I've covered everything that I wanted to touch on. Yes, and I can come back to some of that. So the next slide talks about our funding needs for ongoing activities. So these are areas where we see a need. We have set the budget. We're showing a $25,000 deficit. We just feel that's what we need to operate and where we're going in the direction we're heading. Again, like I mentioned earlier, we're rebranding, coming up with a new logo, a new website. All of that costs money. We have to redo stationery and materials and trade show booths, and all that has to go to go with our brand. So we're showing added expenses for that. Another item, we've got some great tools that we're implementing, and with any type of business growth, you have to plan for that growth, and whether it be bringing on another staff person to assist us, to accommodate for the growth, because there's still just 2.5 of us there. So it's a lot of work, and to maintain and keep up with what we need to do in the trends in marketing, which is social media and some of the tools that we're implementing on our website, which needs time and somebody to sit down and continue to update that. So we're looking at bringing in a possible part-time person to assist with ongoing web and social maintenance. The other thing we do is through our PR agency, they're working with all the travel writers and media and bloggers and influencers out there. So we do various events with them. They're doing a lot of story pitches for us and bringing in travel writers and media. Sometimes, and we do have a very generous community, I will say that, but we're a small community. I only have so many hotels to choose from, and you hate to keep knocking, and they are very giving and generous, but sometimes we may have to buy a meal, or we may have to pay for a night or get a discounted rate, or we might have to pay for an excursion for that travel writer to then experience so they can go on and write about us. So not everything is donated or given to us. We do have, like I said, very generous partners, and a lot of it is given. But sometimes we do have to pay for these things. So those cost money. We're also looking to bring in a couple of, we call them FAM, they're just basically familiarization tours where we might bring a group of travel writers in and we host them. You have to house them, feed them, entertain them. So that all costs money to do. In return, we're getting articles written about us and PR and whatnot that they're producing, blogs, influence, but whoever they are and what they represent, whether it's a publication or an online blog or an influence writer. So those are just things that cost money, and we need to accommodate to have them come in. We're getting some great PR. We've received a lot of good PR so far, but you have to continue to reach out.
Kathy, could I ask you, just
sure,
before that goes away, is that event, the 10,000 and the 5,000, that what we're talking about all year? It's 15,000 for those
right
things, the expenses to this. That's what you spend to get the marketing from the exposure from the advertiser, or not the advertiser, but the writers.
Correct. It's we might have to put them up in a hotel. We might have to.
But that's the extent of it there for the whole year.
That's a year. That's a year. And again, we do our best to
I understand.
Get donations when we can, or comps at a hotel or whatnot. And our partners are really, the Marriott, the Campground, the Hampton Inn, they've all been super generous in putting up some writers for us. In return, they get their names mentioned in the article, and they get the experience of whatnot that the writer has stayed in. So we always make sure that whether it's feeding the ostriches or riding bikes or wine tasting or beer tasting or whatever it is, that company is getting the PR out of it because they're contributing and they're a partner, a playing partner. So, and again, most people are generous, but there are times where we've had to pay for the items because we can't get everything given to us. Or they might travel with a family or something, so you have to, if it's a family experience, sometimes you might have to pay for the kids or something, or a meal. So the other one is the marketing incidentals. So again, this is basically when we're going out and maybe dining or trying to capture imagery of a meal or an experience, or maybe it's making a cutting board, and Sean Boyd made this, or a piggery. So we're having to pay for classes or pay for the meal when we go out and entertain and take pictures and photos. So this is all basically helping us with our imagery for social media, but we can't go and have meals comped at every restaurant in Buellton. So we're having to purchase those things so we can get good imagery and post social posts on our Facebook and Instagram. So that assists with basically marketing incidentals in that way. So it's going out and getting content and material, but many times we have to pay for that. So, and then the other one is print media. So these are a few publications that we did not budget for. We didn't have the budget. We've already as you know, budgeted a deficit. So these are a few items where Westways is a great publication, Visit California, Visit San Ynez Valley. We just didn't have the money to budget for those. So with that $16,000, we could then include those in our advertising for this year. But again, those are not budgeted items that we've included. So that's a total of $61,000, I think I added it up to be. But those are some things for, we could request funding for ongoing these activities. It's just things that we need to do, but we just don't have the budget to do. So we're trying to do what we can with what we have the best we can, and hopefully being conservative on these numbers. The next slide is events that are coming up that, again, we haven't included really in our budget, but we know they're coming up, whether it be this year or next fiscal, so we're planning for these coming up. The Avenue, again, we know that's in September, the 50th Avenue rededication ceremony. And these numbers may be guesstimates. I'm just giving you maybe a high-end guesstimate on some of these. We don't know until we get involved and figure out what the marketing is going to be and what the rentals are going to be, or what we need to, what that event looks like, and how elaborate or whatnot. So some of these, I'm sure, can be massaged a little. I'm just trying to give you a best guesstimate. The centennial, so coming up in, is it 2020, 2019, 2020 is our centennial year, I believe, for the city of Buellton. Is it 2020 or 19? Now I'm drawing a blank, but I think it's 2020.
Call Mr. Buell, he'll tell you.
I think it's not for when
it's 19 or 20.
When we became.
Not when you incorporated, but when you became a city. And I apologize,
It was 1992.
that's when you incorporated, but the city of Buellton.
When Buell opened his
Yeah.
post office, when we became Buellton, California.
I think it's
Buellton.
2020. Yeah. So we're looking at celebrating the centennial from that day when Buellton actually became
Very good. A township.
a township, if you will, maybe, yeah, had its first post office. So that's coming up. About a centennial you want to celebrate all year. There'll be activities throughout the year celebrating that centennial anniversary. P.C. Anderson's is 95 next year, if they want to celebrate or not. I mean, so again, we're just looking ahead at some of these milestones coming up and how we want to celebrate or what we want to do around those events. The movie Sideways, believe it or not, we still get inquiries at the visitor center, and people want the map, and all these years later.
Convertibles with two guys.
Oh, absolutely. So 15 years next year, which is crazy, and people, seriously, the Europeans love the movie, and they know every part of the movie, and they want to go do every part of the movie and relive it. And so, anyhow, it's something to possibly celebrate. And then,
Kathy, they come to the golf course and ask where the fight scene was.
okay, yeah. No, trust me, I mean, Mimi asked Mimi at the Buellton Self-Storage, that's the tree that the Saab ran into at the end of the movie, and people still come and take their pictures of the tree at the storage center. So it's crazy, but they love it. And we don't have any maps left at Sideways. We used to have a Sideways map, and we don't have any left. They're gone. A lot of people love it, and so we just kind of make copies of a sheet and share it with them, their little map to go around. But yeah, I don't know. That movie is a total cult movie, and we loved it or we hated it, but a lot of the Europeans just come in and they love that movie. And then the other one is, if we want to grow Winterfest and try to look at, we're doing really well, but it's growing, and there's going to be some more expenses, I think, involved in continuing to maintain that and maintain the safety of the event is my concern, with maybe some street closures or whatnot. So that all costs money, we know, if we have to do any kind of closures like that.
I had a question on that. I talked to you a little bit. The Winterfest, it started out the city, Visitors Bureau, and the Historical Society. I know the Historical Society just does like cookies now.
Yep.
Financially, there's no input. Does the city financially put anything into Winterfest, or is it all on the Visitors Bureau now?
It's all on the Visitors Bureau. The city does help with like street closures and bringing out cones and stuff like that, so staff time. And then the rec center, they help us too. So like Kyle and his staff come out and help with tables and chairs. So providing, maybe it's in-kind donations if you want to look at it that way, but financial money.
The snow.
But the snow is all out of the Visitors Bureau budget.
Got it.
The tent rental, the porta potties, all of that.
That's whatever you need.
But the city does provide, staff help with the rec center and tables, chairs, cones, all that kind of stuff.
It started out as a real three-way, I know.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure, I know the Historical Society certainly has not been as involved.
But you provide the cookies, so I mean, it's just everybody kind of plays their part, you know, and that's a huge thing, right? So we don't have to go buy any if everybody just bakes a dozen cookies or something and brings them, so it all helps. But financially, no, we don't get any outside financial help on that.
Thank you.
Yep. So some of the stuff we've been doing so far with the funding, of course, I mentioned we were able to hire a PR firm, which has just been a huge game changer for us. And the visibility that we've received from them, I mean, we were able to go down to LA on a wonderful rooftop and host a huge travel massive group, a bunch of travel media. We had a lot of our partners, Wine, Standing Sun, Helix, Hitching Post, Ascendant Spirits went down. They all came down with me, set up tables and provided their products and stuff. So we got a lot of great publicity from that and a lot of great follow-up. We've had farmers come in from that. We've had a lot of great writers come up and visit us due to that event. So the more we can do about that, and LA is a low-hanging fruit market for us. And, you know, as much as people know Pea Soup Andersons for Buellton, we've got so much more to share and expose them to. So it's just a continuous education and getting these travel writers. They just have no clue what exists on the west side of the freeway. They're used to getting off and heading into Solvang or whatnot. So to get them over here to the Botanic Garden, to the golf course, to the campground, to the Industrial Way, there's so much more to explore. So for us, it's a constant education, whether we go to trade shows, consumer shows, it's just really exposing them to everything we have. They don't know about the new product we have, the renovations we have. So to be able to bring these travel agents, rather travel writers up, it's been huge. So the PR firm we work with is just fabulous. In fact, the Vintners just hired them to assist with their PR efforts as well. So that's a great partnership. We've also developed a strategic marketing plan, so that was part of our contract. So we've been able to do that last year. And then we consulted with a local marketing firm to assist us with the implementation of that. So that's where we are now. We're in the implementing process and redesigning, redeveloping, and really moving ahead with that whole strategic plan. So these are all, again, with the funding, we've been able to do a lot of great things, and it's just building a business, if you will, right? You're building the steps and getting all the wheels rolling. And then we've also been able to implement programs and tools to assist with our digital marketing and branding, which has been super helpful. So we've got a really good social media strategy going, and we've built some new tools that some of them are implemented right now on our current website at visitbuellton.com, but they'll also be implemented in the new site once we get that up and launched. Currently, as I mentioned, we're working on the new brand and logo development. We're excited to launch that and kind of share with you a little bit about it and how it came about and the thought process that went in behind it. Sometimes there's a whole lot of conversation and thought that goes into something and what it means and what it stands for. So we're excited to be able to share that with you coming up soon. We're in the process of the website build, just kind of going through all the proofing now and editing, and we're near the final stages of that. It's a lot of work to build a website and a lot of content, and it's a long process, and a lot of eyes have to look at it and play with it and see if the links are working, if the spelling's correct, and if you click on this business, does it take you there? And so a lot of work being done on the new website, and also implementing the tools on the site to enhance our brand, build the content, and provide trip planning assistance. So the new site, and actually you can utilize it on our current site, it's through UTrip, and it's a trip planning tool, if you will. So it's kind of an itinerary builder, and you can go in and check the things you like and kind of put an itinerary together. If you want to come 1 day, 2 days, a week, whatever, and you can go in and like some different things. So I encourage you to go and play around with it, see how you like it, build your trip to Buellton, come and stay, and see what you can find to do. And then also we'll be updating our marketing materials to reflect the new brand. So that's, lots of things go into that as well. Your stationery, my trade show booth, all of those elements that have our logo and branding we need to refresh and redo. So those are some things we're currently working on. I know I had spoke with one of the council members, and we were talking budget in comparison, like from last year to this year, and what changed, and where the change is made line for line and whatnot. So just to highlight a couple of areas. I mean, for the most part, a lot of it's a straight across. I mean, some of the office expenses and, those things just don't change, whether it's your phone bill or your rental, your equipment rental. Some things kind of carry over in the same dollar amount, so not much has changed. A couple areas that have changed, I will point out, is your employee services, which basically we had our weekend gal we used to have on an employee staffing company that we used for her payroll. Saved us money when got to a point to where it was cheaper to bring her on our payroll than to continue having her with the staffing company. So that's changed with the employee. Actually, it went down a little bit because we're saving some money, but that's where you'll see the contract labor line is at a zero there because she's now brought into our payroll on our system. So she's no longer with this staffing company. And then the other piece that's changed a little bit is the advertising and marketing, and that's when I had the chart earlier in the PowerPoint that kind of outlined all of the member dues, the PR, the print, all that. So those items, the only thing, so what's changed there is we've decreased our print advertising a lot, actually by about 33,000. We're putting so much more into digital and website development now. Print is kind of dying. I mean, people still love to get print pieces, and they come in the visitor center and they love maps and all that kind of stuff. They like that in hand. But moving to the millennials, and we know the digital, everything's in your pocket now on your phone. So we're transitioning to all of that as well ourselves in our marketing efforts. So there's a big dip in that number, and again, it just kind of got reallocated in other areas of the budget. The other item that changed is, of course, our web design. We increased that by 10,000 because we're developing a new website this year. So it's taking these buckets of money and kind of changing them around depending on what we're doing. And this year, again, focusing on the new brand and digital marketing. Let's see, the other thing, photography, we dropped 5,000. We just had some photo shoots done, but we left some in there in case we need to go out and get any new businesses or any new assets, or sometimes they want something without people and models, so it's just a matter of taking some pictures of the landscape and whatnot. So we did leave some in there for that purpose. And then SEO, SEM, so this is search engine optimization. Whenever you build a website, that's great, but how do people know about it? So you have to get that marketed. So that's your search engine optimization. And so that's where we've put a whole slew of money. We paid a part of it this fiscal year, and then we have 30,000 earmarked for next fiscal year. So that went up from last year's budget. And so that's when we launch any budget. We've already got some ideas, and we're working with the company currently to set up these stories and get that marketing going for that new website when it comes out, because otherwise it'll sit stagnant, nobody's going to find us. So we want to make sure that's rising to the top of people's searches, and so it takes a lot of money to put into that to get that marketed out there and optimized. The other area that is actually a new a new line item is the media expenses. We've earmarked 5,000. Again, that's to assist with media and travel writers and trying to do what we can with them if when we need to make expenses. But that goes quickly, especially if we're hosting events or doing fam tours with travel writers. So that's why we've asked for a little bit more there. And then the trade shows, we've put in 5,000 above last year's budgeted amount. So I'm just kind of highlighting a few of the areas that have changed amounts from last year to this year and why. The trade show, of course, we have to redesign our booth with the new logo and whatnot. So we've put a little bit more in there for that purpose. Also this year, the IPW, which you've heard me talk about, it's an international travel show, that's taking place in Anaheim this next year, and so we're looking to have a bigger presence there because it is kind of in our backyard, and we're looking to do either a pre or a post FAM, which is basically with these travel agents and tour guides trying to put something together. We'll be working with Solvang and San Ynez Valley on this as well, so we can all three come together and possibly visit Santa Barbara, but to collaborate and get what we call a FAM tour, again, familiarization tour, bringing these people in and introducing them to our community and our product and taking them around and showing them everything and hosting them. So some more funding will be, because it's right here close to us. I mean, we're usually in other states, but it's in LA this year, and we're hoping to either before the show or after the show get them to come in the area and do a tour of our communities. So again, that's all on us. They don't, that's either getting things comped or we are having to pay to host them and whatnot.
IPW, what does that stand for?
So International powwow. It used to be called powwow, but it's called International Powwow, but they've abbreviated it to IPW. So Brand USA, again, is our national brand for the United States. So when we're working with, this is not a consumer show. Consumer show would be you and I and whoever on the street wants to come in, and we're all these booths set up marketing our destination. They pay a few bucks at the door and they come in and we're working with them. So it's direct to consumer, like you're going to come and stay in our hotel or dine at our restaurant. The IPW, an international travel show, this is all an appointment-based show. You have to pay big money to be there, whether you're as an exhibitor, you have to pay a lot of money to be there. But they're bringing in, the United States is bringing in people from all over the world, travel agents and tour guides and receptive tour operators, to then meet with all of the USA people and exhibitors to then earn their business. So we're all vying for their business. We have to set up appointments. We have to request appointments. It's not a guarantee. We put all these requests out and it goes through their computer system and matches you up, and then you have to manually try to fill those appointments. You get about 44 appointments at the show if you can get full appointments. But we have so many minutes we spend with each one. The bell rings and off they go, and then we meet with somebody else. So we are, of course, we're looking at the UK and Germany. China's a big market. India's an uprising market for us as well. So we try to brand our whole Central Coast at this show, and then we, of course, are usually next door to Santa Barbara, so we can kind of show them proximity to where we're located in the Central Coast. So I partner, I know it's a very expensive show, and you have to be a member of Brand USA, so we fall under, Visit Santa Ynez Valley actually carries the membership, and then we fall under them as a delegate in that booth. So Solvang, Santa Ynez, and us go together, because it's a very expensive show to attend on our own. And the other part is, if I were to put Buellton out to the world, not necessarily everybody's going to know Buellton, right, in China or UK or India. So for us, it helps to kind of brand a little bit bigger when we can pull in maybe Santa Ynez Valley or Santa Barbara. So it's a very good show. This year it was in Denver. I was able to go. The first couple of days, it was right around graduation for high school, so I had things going on back and forth. But anyway, I was able to go and attend and be there for the appointments. And so we had great appointments, I think good quality. We have some great tours. We have some that are coming already. It's a nice way to check back in with them to make sure everything's going well, and it's a good way to earn new business for the year. It's a lot of group stuff and some fly drives, some people that just fly in and rent a car and drive. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's a bigger scale thing, but it's dealing with our international market. So, yeah, and it's important to be there. I know I'm rattling through this pretty quickly, but I wanted to make sure I highlighted those budget items for you so you kind of knew what changed, what didn't. And then again, a lot of it is just a carryover. I mean, it's the same amount. It didn't change from last year. We didn't see any fluctuation, but that marketing piece was a little different because of where we are with our branding and digital assets. And I told you we brought Cheryl into our payroll, so that makes that change there. I don't know if I've answered all your questions. I'm happy to answer any more questions. I kind of ran through that quickly.
First I'm going to have council ask any questions that they've got, and then I will open it up to the public. I do have paper slips, so questions for Kathy?
I have one.
Yep.
Kathy, the trip planning assistance, is that a program? For example, when we want to go somewhere, we take the auto club route, and it works well. Is that the same thing? They can do this from their home?
They can do it from their phone, their computer.
They don't pay an expense? Do we have an expense?
No, we have an expense to maintain and continue that. So each year I have to pay an annual fee to host that. It's like a piece of software. I have to be able to host that on our site. Right. So I have to pay, and then the updates they might have, or any updates we do, we utilize their system. So it's called UTrip, and we have to pay for the ongoing maintenance of it.
Is that a set amount, or does it fluctuate?
That's a set amount. We're in a contract with them, and off the top of my head, I can look it up. I don't have it off the top of my head. I want to say it's a couple grand a year to maintain that.
Not two.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I can get that. I don't have the dollar amount in front of me, but I can get it for you.
That's what they're coming in. I've been in your office when they've come with their directions.
With their directions, yeah. it's very helpful if people don't know about the area, and you can set it to your liking if you're an outdoor adventure person, if you're a history buff, if you are looking at a foodie. You can kind of drag these bars back and forth to highlight what, you know, your level of interest is in that area, and then you can go through and like different things or read about different businesses to see if you like it, and you can click on it and add it, and it'll kind of put an itinerary together for you, and you can move it around or delete it if it's not going to, if you can't get that much in this day, you might need to take that and do it the next day. So it just allows you to play around with it and build a nice itinerary, so when you come, you have everything ready and mapped out.
The involvement you've had, has it been a year process, a 2-year process? Is this brand new?
This is brand new. Yep, this is a brand new tool.
So that's your expense?
Pretty much the beginning of the year.
Board, and it'll be about $2,000 operating expense.
Ongoing.
Thank you.
Yep.
Art, questions?
The part-time employee to assist with your web maintenance, how many hours do they spend on a, or is it weekly or monthly?
Well, right now it's us, and our marketing consultant is doing a lot of it. That's not something that we want to pay her to continue to do, because she can do stuff at much higher level and really be looking further out and at top level priorities. So, you know, it depends on whether it's, if they have to go out and get the material and take pictures and stuff and, you know, load it up and get it. Not everything is right there handy, and you can't be grabbing things off the internet and using other people's images, so we have to go out and get our own content. So it just takes time. And then we have another tool we're using called CrowdRiff, and this is a user-generated content. They call it UGC. But this is where we can source photos from people who are here and tagging us and using different keywords and tags that we can then find it. Ostrich Land has a ton, for instance, hitching posts, so flying flags. But we can then go ahead and we can request back. And this all takes time, right? You have to go through all these images. You have to reach back out to that person who took the photo to say, could we use your photo in this regard? So it's just that kind of time, right? It's just somebody to stay on top of it and maintain it and reaching out. And but we've gotten a lot of followers from it when we've reached out to say, could we use your photo for this or that? And so we run different things, whether it's Pets of the Week or is, you know, Taco Tuesday, or, you know, different things that we're doing to on our social media platforms to gain interest, so, and followers. And it's been good. I mean, the CrowdRiff piece is really cool, and we can put together galleries on our website, so it's not just the same static photo all the time. We can actually put these photo galleries there and have them live and change them around and stuff. So whether it's wedding and events, you might go there and find all these cool pictures of weddings and events, or it might be regarding ostriches or pets or whatever it is. We can then, you know, but all those it doesn't just automatically happen. Somebody has to be in there making that happen. So it's a great tool, but it's time consuming.
I don't have any questions, but I have a contingency. We'll come back to council.
Okay, so that's, I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
First of all, I know that the Visitors Bureau is involved with the Brew Fest and the Chili Fest, and I didn't see it on expenses.
No, Visitors Bureau has nothing to do with those events. That's all chamber run.
Is that right? Okay, thank you. Totally.
Yep. Those events are all financed out of the chamber.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay, I was looking, I didn't see,
Yeah.
and they are totally separate. I get that.
Yep.
Okay, so mine is kind of a nitty-gritty question.
Yeah.
You're asking for a $175, where I wish, $175,000 increase, which is close to 50% again what you're getting. I understand, looking at the TOT and what the Visitors Bureau's gotten, that in the last year you actually went down about $50,000 in what you received from the city of Buellton. But I guess my question is, for that, you've got funds needed for ongoing activities, and that's about $61,000. Is the extra $114 for the events to plan for, but not included, like the Centennial and all that? Is this what the rest of that money is going for?
Right.
And to cover the deficit?
Correct. So the deficit would be, the deficit is not included. The deficit's kind of standing alone right now. That's not included in this. So 61K would be for these items here.
Right.
The 145 we have estimated, again, these numbers could fluctuate, but that's what we've guesstimate, I guess you could say, on the events planning.
Okay.
So the 25 is not included. That's a standing deficit right now as we're moving forward that we feel
Thank you.
necessary to roll where we are. I mean, that's just not doing anything in excess of what we're asking for here, so.
Okay.
I don't know if that answers your question.
It does.
Okay.
That's what
Okay.
I was just trying to figure out where you came up with the number, and it's a fairly large jump for 2 years, so I was just curious where the number
Right.
came from, so.
And the number that I've laid out is, actually, it's a little over 200,000, but, you know, again, these events, we don't know exactly until we get involved in the whole planning, but we're not going to take a big step in doing that yet until we know if we even have the funding to do so, or if the city even wants to celebrate these things. So, you know, that's the other alternative.
Okay. Maybe we want to celebrate, not that much.
So
Okay.
it all takes time.
Any other questions? Then I'm going to open it up to the public. I do have one speaker slip.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. And if you could stand by in case there's any questions,
Yep.
I would appreciate that.
Thank you.
Peggy Brierton. Linda. Thanks.
Good evening, Mayor Sierra and council members. Thank you for this opportunity. I have a few questions, and I had my statements all worked up, but I have a few questions actually for Kathy, I believe. But one of the things that I remember looking at, that it talked about an opportunity fund, and I believe that was, I don't know, 75,000 or something like that. And in prior contracts, there had been a fund surplus, so I'm not sure if that was a swap out there. The other thing is, let's keep in mind, the TOT is collected to help offset some of the uses and abuses that happen in our community, like maybe the trash, extra trash that's around in places or whatever. So it's not just for the purpose of general fund, and it has specific requirements that TOT was ultimately and originally, you know, therefore. I was very encouraged to see the level of TOT going up versus what we're spending for the Visitors Bureau. I think that's great, and I think that's where we should be staying. It's going to be close to a 34% rise in TOT this year. We have one more month to see the final numbers, but it's projected to be a 34% increase. Why do we need to increase what we're doing? Some of these programs, I think, sound fascinating, especially the one for 2000. What a deal. Yeah. And so it looks like they're really looking. They have some good advice coming in. I appreciated the fact that there were some numbers with these events. I'm not sure about $100,000 for a centennial event for Buellton. You know, I mean, that's a big one to swallow. I just don't think it's necessary. The other thing is the chamber's getting bigger and bigger. They have a lot of work to do. These ladies that do the Visitors Bureau, they do a fabulous job. You know, you go in, you see them, but they're also chamber members, right? They're running the chamber as well, or they're a big part of it. So what's the time that they are allocating for the Visitors Bureau and chamber work? Because the chamber, we know, is growing and getting bigger and doing more itself. So, you know, asking for another employee to help with these things, I'm wondering, maybe the chamber should be getting an employee to help with some of these things. It shouldn't be on the city dollar. That's just my personal belief on that. I don't have enough information to know how much time is spent in their employee time on chamber things versus. And when was the last time you branded? I mean, it's a lot of money to have to rebrand. And how often does a chamber rebrand itself? You know, I don't know. So is that something, it sounds like it's already happening and all of that. I'm just wondering, is it something that we're going to be looking at every 5, 10 years, 7 years, or whatever? Because it is a big expense. And I think that's it. I mean, at this point, I really don't feel that the council should fund this. There's still no details about these events that they're going to have. They put some money to it, but there's no details. You know, when you're saying we're going to have a year-long event for Centennial, I mean, what about just the city of Buellton becoming a city of Buellton, you know, or creating some kind of city event that we can have on a regular yearly basis instead of one big, long year thing. I mean, I think there needs to be more discussion on these things. It's way too soon to fund them. The employee costs I'm concerned about, and I would like information on the Opportunity Fund and how that works. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Do we want to ask Kathy to...
It's up to you, Madam Mayor, if you'd like to bring her back to answer any questions that were raised.
Did you want to answer any questions or any comments? And then we'll go to... Doesn't look like we've got much of an audience for public comment.
No, I'm happy. I'll try to answer the best I can. So as far as the employee for the Visitors Bureau, I mean, I can tell you how many staff some of the nearby Visitors Bureau carry, and we're doing a heck of a job doing what we do with the staff we have. So this employee would specifically be updating and working on Visitors Bureau items. We wouldn't be having them do chamber operations. They would, really be maintaining and updating the tools that we're bringing in for the Visitors Bureau and social media in that aspect. So that's really, our thoughts are specifically Visitors Bureau. As far as what we do now and how our time is split and whatnot, I can tell you, by the way, our salaries and that are split between the Chamber and the Visitors Bureau. So a certain percentage comes out of the Chamber, a certain out of the Visitors Bureau. We operate the Visitors Bureau 7 days a week, so I could stand here and argue that 100% of our time is doing Visitors Bureau information stuff, but we're fair in that regard. We know some of our activities are Chamber related, and we try to be mindful of that and respectful of that when it comes to budgeting. So hopefully that might answer that for Peggy. And what was the other question you had? The reserve. She asked about a reserve number. So there is a carryover number that's been from the years past that we've been carried forward. Out of that does come billboard, maybe a rebuild, or like I said, the new solar lighting, or if we have to do anything on a billboard, some of that comes out of there. Not so much the rent and utilities, that comes out of the year-over-year budget. Also the motion loft traffic sensor program that we have a 4-year contract with. These are the sensors that are around town monitoring traffic as far as counts go. That's a 4-year contract, so that's continuing to come out of that other area. This past year, we actually hired Megan with Solutions on Second, and I didn't have that budgeted in our yearly budget, so we did take that out of that other expense area because it was part of our contract. We needed to look at doing these things. However, I didn't have it in the budget and know what that amount would be, so we did pay her out of that other area. Now, moving forward, we've moved her back up into her consulting fees out of the year-over-year budget, so that we have to accommodate. I can't keep taking out of there. Once it's gone, so it's just not... you don't want to run a business that way, and when you're paying for consulting. We did it as a one-time thing for her. The other things that come out of there are the pole banners that we do, they're on the avenue and some on 246. We can do updates with those. We had talked about the wayfinding signs. I don't know, that kind of hit a dead end as far as that was something we talked about a couple budgets ago or so. We can rediscuss it, bring that up, revisit that, if that's something we want to do or the city wants to take on. I'm not sure of the company. I know there was some issues with, I reached out, I know Rose shared the information with me on the people that do that, but we might want to sit down and revisit that whole discussion. But some of that money, so that's kind of just ongoing things that we've already been contracted for, or if it might be another thing, if we run over, like this year we ran over, the 400,000. So that's all going to be coming out of that reserve area, so to kind of maintain that. So that's how we're utilizing that carryover spend.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Kathy, what's the rest of that company's name?
Motion Loft.
Loft.
Motion Loft. Mm-hmm.
All righty.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Are there any other speaker slips out there? Seeing none, I close down public hearing and bring it back to council for conversation and direction.
Just a comment. Peggy had a question about having been involved with the chamber and overseeing the visitor bureau. I think the bulk of the chamber activity is at our mixers, which are chamber events.
No, the chamber does the Brew Fest and the Chili Fest.
Okay, but she said that there was no harm, no foul there. I mean, it wasn't city funding, if I understand it right. But so the chamber it's public relations, and as the time goes, I mean, for 25 years I've been involved with it. They're actually 45 years. There's still a handful of people, but it's the same in Solvang, it's the same in Oxnard, it's the same in San Luis Obispo. San Luis Obispo is much bigger, and they have a huge budget. They have thousands of people in their gatherings, but they pay people to do things. And this is pretty much a voluntary thing, so it's a community, I believe, outreach, and it's where they show it's a free marketing plan for themselves, and I think it's positive. I've never seen people complain about the boring mixers, but they just either don't come or they. So I think, Peggy, that's probably the actual expense. I don't think they use.
No, I was talking about time expense.
I understand. I don't know that they're. I think that's taken whatever those hours involved for the mixer are, which is usually a couple hours a month. Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to try to put a number on it.
Clarify. Any comments? Any questions?
I do.
Vice Mayor King.
Okay. My issue with this is, and I had a lengthy conversation with Kathy on the phone about this, is the budget is kind of vague. You know, there are numbers on here, and not to fault them, because it's going to take a lot of work, and if Jody's watching on the computer at home, she's probably going to curse my name and throw a shoe at her computer. Our staff, and Kathy and I talked about this, spent a lot of time and effort on our budget, and our budget was broken down to where there was budgeted for that fiscal year, and then there was actual expense. The one that was presented to us says, you know, and there are some fixed fees in here, but it says, you know, office equipment, 400. And then it says over budget 400. I mean, all those numbers to me would be, if let's say there was a $1,000 budget, and then you had to actually spend $1,500, then on that over budget line would say, you know, an additional 500, 550, whatever it was, over budget. So the discussion that went between us is that as our staff presented us a budget that said, this is what we want, this is what we budgeted for last year, this is what we actually spent, and then this is what we're asking for next year. Because that gives us a breakdown. I mean, all of us up here on this dais have a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers to let them look at this and say, okay, they budgeted for X, they actually spent X, and now they're actually asking for another number next year's budget. So as it was broken down, and I'm sure Chanel spent an inordinate amount of time on our budget, it's going to take a lot of time to do that. And all of our staff people had to go through all their expenses and do that. So in order for me to, you know, consciously say, okay, I'm going to give you the price of a Bentley increase, you know, then I need to see that breakdown of that budget. So each one of these lines, and I would have liked to have seen it to where if that line item said, okay, we budgeted $2,500 and we didn't go over, so it would be a minus sign of we only spent $2,000, or we went 500 over, because at the top of the page, if you're looking at this budget at the top of the page, it says dollars over budget, and each number is exactly the same all the way down the columns.
Can I answer something there, Dave?
Yeah, sure.
Sorry. So
So I can show you exactly what you're asking for on last fiscal year because those monies have been spent. So what you're looking at now is for the upcoming fiscal year. So the numbers are going to show the same because nothing's been spent out of those line items yet. So last fiscal year, I can show you if we budgeted 5,000 and spent 5,001 or 4,500.
Exactly what I'm asking.
So that's for last fiscal year, you can see that. And so that's how we create the budget this year. And so those were the few items I went over with marketing and employee. Those were the numbers that changed in this year's budget.
Some of your fixed expenses, I expect, that are going to be the same, as you spoke about earlier. But see, the way we were given our budget was, and we did talk about this on the phone, is either Mark or whoever would show us, okay, last year's budget, we asked for $5,000. We spent $3,200 on that item, and this year we're asking for another $5,000, just in case we have some fluctuation in the spending. So when the public opens this up and looks at it, they may say, hey, this line item that was budgeted for $10,000, they only actually used 2. You see what I mean?
No, I totally understand.
As far as the surplus down at the bottom, we don't even know what you have.
Right, because we're contracted for the 400,000, so that's what we work with now, is that 400,000 in our budgeting.
Right.
And
so
then
you're asking us for more, and so to justify it in my mind, I don't know about the other, I can't speak for the other council members, but for me to justify it in my mind of saying, okay, we're going to give you, $175,000 extra dollars, show me. So, and I know it's going to take a lot of work, but
and that's what I kind of laid out.
And if Mark, you want to get with Kathy and show her how we did it, that would be perfectly acceptable to me.
And just, is there any way with your program to have the prior fiscal year on this table? Because that's how we usually do budgets, is...
I can see if I can include 2017 on there and 18.
Yep, what budgeted, what had...
Because I have that, so it's like what's budgeted, what we've spent, and whether we're over or under budget. So that's how last fiscal year is done.
For the next, for the fiscal year.
Okay, because see, what I do is take those numbers and carry it over, and that's how I do create this budget, is looking at last year's budget. Did we spend more or less, or can we carry that same amount over because it was sufficient? So
and Chanel and I can sit down with you.
It's just a matter of putting that line item in here from last year. So
right, and that's what I'd like to see, just how we had it out with our budget.
Okay. Yep, I just want to make sure that you knew why the numbers were the same right now, because you're just looking at this new fiscal year, which we're not even a month into yet. So some of those haven't even had anything expended out of them, so they'll show that same number.
Right.
So that's why it's not pulling in last fiscal spending.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I'd like to see.
So you just want to see the comparison of the two?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Are we in discussion, or?
This is discussion, absolutely, we are discussing.
I wondered if, to understand it, I don't expect Kathy would, I don't know that we would have a request tonight, but I'm wondering if there's a way of reviewing all of the revenue stream, the expense stream that they have, and maybe the board or the council, but I hate to micromanage. I mean, I think their board could effectively say, what do we get for what we're spending for certain things? If there's an organization that you've historically been with, and you got to say, these things aren't, this thing isn't paying out. I think if we could see an effort there, maybe there could be some negotiation, if you will, from the versus the 170. I know your board is asking for 175 or 170?
175,000.
I understand, 175,000. I got the comment. But that, I think that might help us come more to reality. And that's why I was wondering about the travel thing. That's a huge event. That is a very inexpensive amount of money to bring basically the world here. We're not paying for rooms for them or anything. They're printing the thing on their own computer, and we're bringing them to our door, and we want to show our best. We don't want to act like the back at 10 sign is up, and nobody was here to greet them. So I think I would like to see if the board would, and I'm talking about the Visitors Bureau board, would bring a new review or as Dave's talked about, you know, the sheets, can you honestly look at what you're spending for different services and ask, is that fruitful or not? Because I think the things that you've proposed tonight, I'm all for. You know, you're positive about them and they seem to be working, but I think there's some things that maybe we haven't seen that I would like to have revisited. And I'm not specific, but I know we have they've got a lot of things that they do business with that I'd like to see if they...
So probably continuance to provide more information is at least what I've heard from three council members.
Art, do you have any comments that you would like to...
Yes, because first of all, I'd like to say that the visitor bureau does a great job. I think just recently we've had friends who came over from Atlanta, Georgia, and they're moving here, and they're looking at buying. Right now, his business is going to be out of Santa Maria, but we have taken them everywhere, and they're foodies like us. They eat and drink, and we have done a lot of things. And one of it was when they first got out here was go to the link. So it does work, and it's in positive. I also agree with Dave on where we just need to see where the money has gone to, and I agree with Ed. Are we getting our best bang for the buck from this one group? And that's something that you have to tell us where, okay, is this where you feel comfortable putting that money toward and growing? And I admit, I like print. I still read 3 newspapers a day, and I refuse to go read the LA Times on the computer. And there's people like that. So if...
All those trees you're killing.
I grow 10, so it's okay. For everyone, I'll grow 10. But the thing is, you look at all these things, and what you're asking for is so we can be able to balance it out and say, okay, we feel that we're getting the best bang from you as well. And that's what I think what Dave and what the rest of the council is asking for. So.
Okay, and I also really want to thank you and Jody, because I mean, I spent time with you before. I spent some time with you yesterday, and what you presented really explained a lot to me. It shows me what you wanted the money, what you are requesting the money for. We had no clue before. I truly appreciate that. The presentation was a good presentation. I agree with council that it would be nice to be able to compare, and we'll get that taken care of. I know we give to Visit San Ynez Valley, and we give to the Visitors Bureau.
Well, the city doesn't give to Visit San Ynez.
T-Bid.
The T-Bid
T-Bid
does, yes.
Yeah. And I know that the T-Bid contract is up in next year, is it? I don't remember. Anyway, it's something to consider. Something to consider too, because we give a lot of money to both groups. I know the city doesn't give it, the hotels do, but they get over $300,000 a year to promote Buellton too. And honestly, between the two, and I'm not sure whether Shelby's watching tonight either or not, but between the two, our Visit Buellton does such a good job of promoting our city that if we were going to spend any extra money, I would really like I would think it would go in that direction. The other one that I learned yesterday, shame on me, talking to them, was we don't have a liaison to the Visitors Bureau on council. When Foster left, we were going to give it to the replacement, and there was no replacement. I thought it was Ed, because Ed and I don't know if we can remedy that at the next meeting.
Yes.
It should be an agenda item.
Yes, we can do that.
But, if we're going, we should have our liaison. So
Yes.
that if we could make that happen.
And we'll just, don't need any council formal action. We will table this until Kathy can get me the additional information, and I will put it back on the agenda. Is that acceptable?
And realistically, is 30 days adequate?
That's fine. No,
Is
it's just a
that-
matter of...
Oh, that's fine.
And I know you worked really hard getting this together, and I truly appreciate it, because opened my eyes a little bit more, and I do appreciate it. So
Thank you.
it'll be a shorter meeting next time.
Okay. No, I
They're gonna hold you
appreciate
to
it. Thank you. Thank you.
And I'd like to second, you guys are doing a great job.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you really do. You really do. It doesn't,
Only two. There's only two of them.
I know. All righty. Okay, then we move on to our last business item, approval of storage improvements at City Hall. Ms. Hess.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Member City Council. This item before you is regarding storage facility for City Hall. As you're aware, City Hall is in major need for a location to store archive files. As it is right now, we've got unsafe conditions and an outpouring of existing space that's filled already with tons of boxes that's starting to encroach even into staff's current work areas. With that, we reviewed our existing facility at City Hall and as well as the existing trailer and our land space available at City Hall. We do have room to install a shed at City Hall. It would be on the west side of the main building at City Hall. We would move the fence line a little further towards Highway 246. And on that side yard, there's enough room for a decent-sized shed for as large as 12 feet by 35 feet. So what we have before you, attachment 1 shows you just pictures from different locations at City Hall that shows you the current conditions of our archive files. Our archive files should be in a secure, proper storage that's easily accessible by all staff. The bulk of our storage right now is upstairs in an attic, and it has really no correct...
I've climbed that attic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Me too.
I don't recommend doing that at all. We would have to bring all those files back down. I can't even imagine how those files were brought up there. Anyhow, we do need to have proper and safe storage for those items. We have a cost estimate in the staff report that includes some clearing, grubbing, some minor grading on that side yard because it's sloped. We have to do some vegetation removal, a concrete pad for a base for the actual shed, cost for relocating the fence, some shelving, and the actual tough shed itself. So the estimate at this point is $27,400. If council approves this, it's not currently budgeted in the 2018-19 fiscal budget. Approval of this would require a budget amendment to our capital improvement fund, and this would be supported through the general fund in the amount of $27,400. So with that, staff recommends to authorize the city manager to implement the storage improvements at City Hall and amend the 2018-19 fiscal year budget by this amount as well. And staff's available to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions first of all?
Just one. So will this all be done by staff, or are we going to have to get an outside contractor to do some of this?
Well, it's all by outside contractors. The concrete work right now, we already have a contractor working on other concrete improvements and sidewalk improvements, things like that. So we can add that to that work. The tough shed itself is built by Tough Shed installed, so they would do that. And the fence we used I can't remember the name of the fence company. I think it's Fence Factory. I don't recall, that did the other fence improvements at City Hall when, they were in disrepair. So to make sure that our fencing is consistent, we would go back and get an estimate from them as well.
Okay.
And then the other improvements as far as interior, doing the shelving, relocating the boxes, et cetera, staff would do that. We'd have to rent a lift to get the boxes out of there securely.
Okay.
The tough shed, just to make sure, this is just paper, so do we have any issues with the fire department or requirements for sprinklers? It doesn't meet the needs of square footage, but it's a pretty darn good price, $32 a foot for the...
Right, it's just a storage shed, so it's not going to be, used as an office or something that
Yeah, wouldn't trigger any fire department or any other issues, and we're meeting the setbacks. And
will there be electricity in it, or is it just going to be for...
We have
Skylights.
Fluorescents?
Light, yeah, light.
Yeah, no electricity, so won't have to hook it up in any utilities. We'll have couple skylights as well as some windows in the doors.
And then the only other problem is you're giving up the retirement area barbecue cook station. So no one else can retire?
No, that area's still there. This is
I
the
know.
dirt area on the side.
Oh, I thought it was the...
No,
Ben's Garden
Ben's
stays.
Garden in the retirement area will still be in place.
All right. Then I'll make a motion to approve that.
Well, I have to open it up for
I
the
know.
public first.
I'll wait.
Are there any questions? You got one
I
question?
do have just one
Go
question.
ahead.
We don't have to get engineering on this, do we?
Nope.
No, it's Tough
Right.
Shed
Tough
has,
Shed does it.
we gave them the concept, what we wanted, these are standard buildings that they have, we tell them all the details of what we want, and they build it for us.
Okay. Any public comment on this? Closing public. Bringing
Do
it
it.
back to council.
Move for approval, Madam Mayor.
Second.
27-4, not to exceed 27-4, right?
Second.
Perfect. Linda?
Councilmember Andrusik.
Aye.
Vice Mayor King.
Aye.
Councilmember Mercado.
Aye.
And Mayor Sierra.
Aye.
And staff would like to thank you for not having to go up to the top anymore once that's
Oh, my
taken care
gosh.
of.
All it takes is one trip.
Who's going to be living up there then,
Yeah.
when all those files?
That'll be the retirement area.
Okay,
Right,
city
Mark.
managers report.
Disability retirement.
Thank you. First, I want to welcome Andrea for her first meeting as a planning director. She gets to enjoy. And I will turn over for a little briefing on election update to City Clerk Reed.
Okay, so we are in election season again, starts Monday, the 16th of July, goes for 4 weeks until the 10th of August, unless one of you decides not to run, and then it will be extended to the 15th of August. So, binders are ready. We have 10 of them prepared and ready to go. Make an appointment with me by phone or by email, because it does take a little while to go over all the paperwork and all the forms. So make an appointment, get a binder, and get your signatures.
7:16 to 8:10 is the filing period?
7:16 to 8:10.
Good. Yeah, 5 p.m.
Unless one of you does
Yeah.
not file, then it goes to 15th.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
We've got a request from the City of Goleta for library stats from Santa Barbara, so we can start giving that information. Solvang as well, so we'll start giving those stats and start discussions with Goleta on details as we move forward. The road project is going to be starting in a couple weeks. Notices have gone out once, and the second notice will be going out
Went out today.
today.
Today, it was very clear.
Okay.
Thank you.
And also the handicapped sidewalk at Calor and 246, we've signed the contract for that. So that will be moving forward. I've done our emergency operations plan has to be updated every 5 years, so I've just submitted a draft to the County Office of Emergency Management for review. Basically the same as the 2013, just updated a few things, so that hopefully we'll get back to you. And last but not least, and this is from Barbara and Kyle, Crab Fest, the Crab Gala. Tickets are available. Please buy tickets it's on September 7th, and tickets can be at the rec center, online. I have some, Holly has some, other people have them.
Gotta get rid of 20 of them. Come on, guys.
Yes, and Andrea has some as well.
What's the deal? September 7th, it's at Zaca Creek Golf Course.
City.
The city rec department the proceeds are going to go to PTSA, so it's a good cause, and she's going to have all this crab on the tables, and it's going to music and drinking and
Speeches by the mayor and myself.
dancing. Oh my gosh, who wouldn't want to be there? Come on.
Yeah.
One other thing I forgot to mention, and it's the Executive Eagles event at the airport. Is that, I have it at 10 a.m. and they're going to talk about the economy and how the airport helps the economy, and the command officers from the sheriff's air support's there. I didn't write the day. Is it the 21st?
The 21st. Yes, it is. Saturday.
So put that on your calendars. be there. They're offering plane rides, and I mean, oh my gosh, again, who wouldn't want to be there?
Before you gavel, I had a request for, because Mark, in the manager's report, you were talking about the library, and it reminded me that I haven't asked if we could get an update. What is the disposition of our piece of real estate, the physical building? Did we give that to the county, or do we still?
The library is owned by us, the city.
That's what I thought. We
Yes.
have not given that away.
No,
Okay.
no.
I was
And-
under the impression we signed it over to the county, so that is a negotiation for.
Absolutely, and they already know that
Good.
it's part of our, that they won't have rent, basically.
Not giving it to the county.
But it has a value.
Absolutely.
Right, okay.
Okay, done? Meeting adjourned. See you all Thursday, the 26th.